every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. High through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire.
Good evening. If Tottenham were to be relegated from the Premier League, it wouldn't be just a bad season, it would be an earthquake. We're talking about one of the biggest clubs in England, a global brand, £1 billion stadium, and suddenly all of that drops into the Championship. The bright lights gone, the massive TV slashed overnight, the financial engine that kept this club running at the highest level, completely shaken. And here's the real question. What happens next? Do top players stay and fight, or do they walk out the door as the club is forced into a fire sale? Just to balance the books, because let's be honest, you can't run a Premier League wage bill on Championship income. It doesn't work. They are the bigger picture, the stadium debt, the expectations, the pressure. This isn't a small club that can quietly rebuild. This is Tottenham. Every mistake is magnified. Every loss hits harder. And if they don't bounce straight back up, then that's when things start to get really dangerous. We've seen big clubs fall before. Some recover, some spiral. So the debate is simple, but the answer isn't. Would relegation destroy Tottenham financially, or could it be the reset the club desperately needs? Let's get into it. And yes, welcome to THFC Till I Die. Big up to you, Billy. And joining us tonight is a man that, firstly, I'm absolutely honoured to have him on. He is the money man of the Tottenham community. He really is. You know that fella that goes on Talk Sport with Simon Jordan? Well, we got Simon Jordan in Tequila. Now we've got the money man with us. Connor, how are you? Welcome to the channel, bud. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't deserve that introduction, mate. But yeah, thank you. Honoured to be on. Good to be on with yourself. Obviously, always good to be on with Billy. We see loads of each other, but really good to be on with you, Dermot, and looking forward to getting into it tonight, mate.
Yeah, so am I. And joining me, of course, is, well, he's not Simon Jordan, but he's close to it. He's probably a bit like Matterface. I don't know if he'll take that as a compliment or not. He might just kill me afterwards for saying that. But Billy, how are you this evening, bud? And always a pleasure.
As long as I'm not Jamie O'Hara, I'll take that. I'll take that.
I don't think anyone wants to be Jamie O'Hara, to be fair. Oh dear. But how are you tonight, bud? You all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Yeah, good, mate. I'm started to, as we were saying the other day, started to accept our fate at this point after that result last night. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. And we've been speaking a lot about. I normally just say, my friend Connor says this, so it's good to have him on and actually be able to hear it for the man himself.
Yeah, when it comes to finances, I'm useless. And that's why I said to Billy, we need to get Connor on, because he's the man that makes sense. He's the man that will teach us a few things. But let's welcome a few people in, and then we will crack on to it. Big up to Rodney Martin. He says, big up, but we are going down to Championship. I still believe we're not, Rodney. Get behind. I'm still on the train. I'm half on, half up. Billy's trying to take me off. People, I'm trying to stay on. I'm going to be dragged off this delusional train until it kills me. Big up to Rhino as well. Big up, Ryan. Hope you do well, bud. And listen, best of luck for you this week. Let me know if you need anything. Big up to Emma. Relegation is here. And to be honest, it's a shame, because it will be my first time in my life I would ever see this happen. But I've accepted it's going to happen. Yeah, I know, Ryan. Look, it's the first time for all of us. Look, I was born the year we went down, so people blame me for that. But yeah, I had it 93, 94 under Aussie when we had to go to Oldham. And I keep repeating the story. We went to Oldham and we won 2-0 to stay up. But them players have showed a lot more what these players have. They showed fight and determination. So big up to you. He says, the problem is when we go down, I can't see us coming back up on the first attempt. I hope you're wrong on that, buddy. In my lifetime, this is the worst team I've ever seen. Billy, worst team you've ever seen, bud, over your lifetime at Spurs?
Definitely this season is, yeah. I mean, on results wise, definitely. I mean, on paper you could probably argue it, but what we're seeing, I mean, we're on track at the moment to be one of the worst teams in Premier League history, the way that we're going at the moment. So, you know, the form that we've had recently, it's been absolutely shocking. So, definitely the worst in my lifetime, without a doubt.
Yeah, Connor, the worst for you, bud? The worst you've ever seen?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, you know, we can make arguments about on paper they seem to be better players, but we've now had 2 years of these types of results, haven't we? I think, you know, obviously this year particularly bad, and you don't have you know, I think we had a bit of a excuse last year in terms of saying we were going for the Europa or whatever. And look, I do think injuries. I don't like to use injuries as an excuse, but the injuries that we've had, you know, over a sustained period of time is unprecedented, and we wouldn't be down there if we had not had those injuries. So, but I look at the attack and I watch those three up front for us on the weekend against Sunderland, and it's just tragic. I mean, to have gone from watching Kane and Son, you know, not in the not so distant past, to watching those three. It's a really, really poor team, and I think we are by far right now the worst team in the Premier League, which is obviously shown in our form.
It is, Connor. Well, look, I could go back to the 93-94 side that finished 3 points above relegation. As probably the worst side I ever seen, but this probably comes very close to it, if not just ahead of it. Even the side that went down in 77, they showed fight. That's all you want to see. If we go down, I think us fans would be upset, but we could slightly accept it if the players were fighting every game, putting a shift in. You know, we could accept it, but not even trying. And them crying coming off the pitch on Sunday, Connor and Billy, that shows that they've given up already. Did you get that vibe on Sunday? That's it, we're jacking it in.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing is, you know, that it's us fans that suffer, right, when we go down, because you know most of these players. I mean, I'm sure we'll chat about it when we chat about some of the finance stuff in a bit, but you know, they're going to get moves, right, generally, and they're going to move on. And although it's not great for any of them to be on the sort of, you know, written into history as part of the team that got a club the size of Tottenham relegated, they will move on in a way that us as fans can't. And you know, I know a lot of people are liking, you know, I see it on Twitter, I see it on YouTube, are saying, you know, fans deserve this and all of this crap, but we don't deserve this. This is just, it is, you know, we're the one group that don't deserve this. That ownership definitely deserve this, and I'm sure we'll come on to that. But the players do as well, because as you say, they're not showing the fight. I also, to be honest, I just think technically the team is so poor. When I watch the team try to put together 3 or 4 passes, I mean, it's just horrendous. So, yeah, it's sad times, mate.
It is. Billy, look, I was just saying to Connor that there was no fight and players crying going off. It seems like some of them were waving the white flag, doesn't it, on Sunday? And that's how it came across.
Yeah, it's been like that pretty much all of 2026, I would say. It was like the same versus Crystal Palace, Forest, and this one. And on all 3 of those games, I've said, well, this is one of the most important games of my lifetime, you know, and it doesn't seem like it from the players. And then I thought, right, well, we've got a new manager coming in. They've had 10 days on the training pitch with a new manager. We're actually in the bottom 3 now. Surely they're going to come out and see something, but it's just nothing again. It's just, that fight is missing. But I think Connor's spot on there. The technical quality is so poor as well.
Yeah,
like
it is.
I don't know if you guys have seen the stats. I know Connor has, but about Xhaka, who made more tackles than all 3 of our midfielders combined and stuff. Like, you know, we're really missing some quality in that midfield badly, I think.
We're missing experience. Yeah. I think we are missing experience. And that's why I'm surprised he never played Palhinha on Sunday. I just thought, have Palhinha in there. He'll give you that bit of experience. He'll give you that bit of bite. It doesn't matter if you play the 2 youngsters ahead of you. You got that experienced man there to tell them, to guide them. That's all they need, a bit of guiding.
It didn't work with Gallagher, did it? There in that role,
No, it didn't.
And I think hopefully what we'll see is that he's. I mean, you have to give him a little bit of grace period because it's the first game, but surely he would have learned a lot from that performance. Because, like we were saying the other day, it's like in training it must be so different to when you actually see him on the pitch. And I imagine he's learned a lot from watching him on that game because not what they can do, but what they can't do, especially. I'd imagine.
It is. I thought very quickly. I thought De Zerbi looked like a beaten man on Sunday, Connor. He really did. He must have looked. He thought, "What the hell have I done?" And it was like the realization, wasn't it, how bad we are? I mean, what's your thought on them?
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought on the game, I agree with you. I mean, I think if he didn't realise already how bad we were, he certainly does now because that second half was tragic. Yeah. I mean, it was. I thought the first half, Sunderland were probably the better team, but there weren't that much in it, and it was sort of fine. But that second half, and it's been the story of our season, I think, with a lot of second halves. Actually, you come out and just absolutely dismal, offer absolutely nothing. But like I'm putting aside all of the stuff around the inevitable crash out that we'll have with De Zerbi and whatever your view is on him and all the personality stuff and all of that stuff. I think as a coach, he was definitely the best coach we could have got out of the list,
exactly.
Right? For certain. And I've been a fan of some of his work. He's played great football. If you hear like a lot of the tactical analysts and Pep and others have spoken about how he's the most influential coach of the last 10, 15 years. So there's no doubt he's a great coach. But I do think he got a few things fundamentally wrong in terms of team selection. You pick 3 forwards with no technical ability as part of that front 3. And then you don't play Xavi Simons behind them, so you've got no one who can actually get them the ball anyway. I think it feels like as soon as any manager comes to Tottenham, they lose their mind. And as Billy says, you've got to give a bit of a grace period. He's only just joined, but I'm praying against Brighton, and I'm not saying Xavi Simons has been amazing or the answer or anything like that, but he's got to play. We've got to have some creativity in the team.
We do. I just don't get it. I just do not get it. Welcome a few more people in, and then we're going to crack on. Big up to Mr. Phil Peking. I haven't seen you before, lad, but big up. Welcome. Do hit the subscribe. Is big up to Elfan as well. Good evening, Dermot from Nightly Hamburg in Germany. Big up to you, sir. Being called a legend, Billy, which he is a legend, is an absolute legend.
I don't know about that. I love Phil, though. Good, great guy.
Yeah, and there he is calling Connor a legend as well, the money man legend. Big up to you as well. Big up to David Clark. He says sponsors can't drop off. If we're relegated, they have contracts. You saw Man United's minority owner try that, and it cost him millions. So for one season, we can keep some of the players. Well, might as well crack into it, Connor. Is that true? Can sponsors not drop off, or would there be sort of a relegation break in their contracts with Tottenham?
Potentially. So I think that's the difference between what Jim Ratcliffe tried to do with Ineos with that contract, where he basically just tried to get out of it for no real reason, tried to make some sort of tenuous argument that it was because we also were having some deals with some other car sponsors and stuff that he would be able to get out of it, which obviously didn't hold up. And they ended up doing a settlement outside of court. I think the difference with us getting relegated, it's definitely possible and probably likely, at least in some of the contracts, that there will be a relegation clause. Now, obviously, we don't know what exactly they look like. And that's why when we come on to some of the finances stuff, we're all making assumptions about how far commercial income might fall. But it would be pretty standard, I would say, to have that type of clause in them, in the same way you will in some of the players' contracts potentially as well, right? So it sort of works both ways. But if you're a Nike paying 40-50 million pound a year to sponsor Spurs, you're doing that on the premise that you've got all of the eyes on Premier League watching you, week in, week out. Clearly, Championship doesn't bring in anywhere near as many eyes, so it just doesn't make commercial sense for Nike to be paying that amount of money. I think one of the challenges we will have with sponsors if we go down is the AIA sponsorship is up. Next season's the last season of that, right? So it's almost the worst possible time to be going out and negotiating, trying to get a new front of shirt sponsor. I mean, we've seen Chelsea have struggled to get a front of shirt sponsor anyway. All of the gambling companies are now being banned from sponsoring shirts as well. Liverpool will be going at the same time as us. So even if we stay up, you could argue it's going to be quite difficult because we're now not consistently getting into Europe, and we're struggling. But if we go down, clearly that's going to be a bit of a disaster. And again, that's sort of 40 million quid a year. So it's worrying from that perspective.
It is. On the protest side, Billy, from protesting against these sponsors, is it more? Will it be in your favour? Do you think, if we do go down, to get easy at these sponsors than it would be if we did stay in the Premier League, from a protesting against the ownership point of view?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it definitely strengthens the hand in that regard. I think, let's have it right. These sponsors signed up for a team that were alleged to be supposed to be challenging for the Champions League, and that's why they would have done it. They wouldn't be doing it. They certainly wouldn't be doing it for a Championship team, and they would have been doing it for a Big Six club. And it would be unthinkable for those if they did it 2 years ago, for example, that they could be in the Championship. It's just so it definitely strengthens the hand in that regard. And I almost don't think you'd even need a protest to point that out. I think they'd be furious themselves, to be honest. That they.
No, that's fair.
And I imagine that obviously we don't know the full finances, but I would be very surprised when Daniel Levy was doing these deals. I imagine he charges them the premium whack to get it, so they're not getting their products. Put simply, when you sponsor a Premier League team, you do it because it's the best league in the world, the most eyes on it. Championship is nowhere near that, so it's a completely different. They're going to be completely sold up the river in terms of what they're getting for their money.
That is so true. Big up to Dr. Tom Therapy as well. Big up to your Dr. Tom Therapy. We can all do a bit of therapy, I think, round back now. Big up to Wayne Bonner. Evening, folks and fellow masochists. Big up to you, Wayne. Big up to Simply 2006. I thought the downfall for us started against the now win against Villarreal in the Champions League. He says Tell and Simmons should have started. Yes. Big up to Mick Hamlick as well. Good evening, Dermot and Co. Big up to you, Mick. Hope you're doing well. And then who else is in? Big up to Chanel. Big up to Chanel. He says, why can't our players stay on their feet and fight instead of rolling on the floor, killing any momentum, looking for a handout of refs when we haven't got one decision to date? Marani is a prime example. I mean, guys, I agree. Richarlison keeps going over every 2 minutes when you touch him. Marani's the same. I mean, I know Romero went off with his leg, but at first, you thought he was knocked out cold. I mean, thoughts on that, Billy? I mean, he is right. We do kill the momentum.
Yeah, it's what Connor spoke about earlier, isn't it? There's no technical quality of these guys. That's like, I mean, what I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple of days is how spoiled we were with Harry Kane. You give the ball to Harry Kane up there and it sticks to. I mean, we were lucky to be able to watch one of the best players of all time for 10 years or whatever, but the difference in quality there, the drop-off in quality between Kane and those three that we saw at the weekend, it's only been 2 seasons since we sold him. It's just mad. And, Son, again, we lost that as well. But the technical quality of these guys, they can't really hold up the ball. Solanke's slightly better technical-wise. Like he doesn't go over as much as the other two you mentioned there. But it's just the technical floor of the team is so low, particularly in the front three. And that's why I think... Personally, I think you've got to have Xavi or Tell there, just because at least they can hold on to the ball and beat a man and give it as well. I just think Richarlison's a good instinctive finisher, but other than that, his all-round game is very poor. Yeah,
there's big up to Shawnee Maddox as well, and big up to Anthony Lyons as well, and Tenswe Wooden 8651. Big up to you guys. Con, I'm going to start with you, bud. If Tottenham were relegated from the Premier League, would it financially cripple the club long term, or could they actually recover quite quickly? When Daniel Levy was there, he ran a very tight ship. But since he's gone, I feel like it's like the loonies are running the asylum. Does it fear you a little bit? Us going down financially?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if we go down, it's a bit of a disaster, but not a complete disaster. I think talk of, it meaning that the club is going to go bankrupt or anything along those lines, or have financial fair play breaches or anything along those lines is all a bit of folly. I don't think we're in that situation. It's completely unprecedented, right? For a club of our size and magnitude to go down. I mean, to give you a comparison, the highest ever revenue that you've had in the Championship was Leeds last year, which was 137 million. In the year that we are in the Championship, we're likely to still hit 350 million. So it's, it's vastly, vastly more than what you typically see. in the Championship. I think it almost brings home really why it's such a disaster that we're in this situation, because we should have, we've got all of the benefits in terms of our financial stature being so much bigger than the sort of clubs that are normally competing with relegation. It's an absolute joke that we're even in this situation. So it's hard to say because you don't really have any sort of data points that you can pull on that is comparable. I know some people say, oh, look what happened to Leicester. But the difference is when Leicester got relegated, Dermot, they were already in a bit of a financial mess, right? And so that's why it ended up getting themselves into that situation. So look, I think if we talk about a situation where we go down and we come back up within 1 year, I think it probably puts us back a couple of years in terms of where we would hope to be, and it will take some time to get back up to the revenue numbers that we're at now, because it takes some time to grow the commercial revenue again. But it would be okay. I think once you're in that situation where you're in the Championship for a couple of years, I think that's when it becomes a lot more difficult. We've got a lot of players that will end up leaving. For sure. Anyway, I to be honest, I think there'll be a lot of players that will leave in the summer, regardless of whether we stay up or not. I think there's the likes of Romero, Van der Ven are probably going anyway. So that sort of will get you some money in. So look, I think it's very, very bad, clearly, but not I don't think it's crippling. I don't think it's a complete disaster. It starts to get worse and worse every year you stay down.
I mean, Billy, look, as Connor says, it's bad, but not as bad as it could be. And if you look at Leicester as an example, they've just free-falled. And again, I think, didn't they get points deductions this year? This season
12
as well,
points,
Connor?
I think. Yeah, they got 12 points.
And you look at Sheffield Wednesday as well in the financial mess they're in. Daniel Levy did run a very tight ship. I mean, in one ways, if we did go down, did he prepare us for it in a funny sort of way? Did he make sure there was things in places in case the worst case scenario did happen?
I think so. I mean, you have to. One thing you could say about him is very sort of risk averse, isn't he? And like he's essentially safeguarded the future of the club for many years to come in terms of finances because of how well run that we are. But on a practical level, yes, because Ben Jacobs was talking about he insisted on every single player that he signed having a relegation clause, which I know a lot it's a ridiculous thing to insist on for a club with top 6 ambitions or top Premier League ambitions even, but it's an insane reality that we've seen. It's actually going to work out that if we go down, then all of our players' salaries will automatically halve, other than the people that have signed. Ben Jacobs was saying that Vinay and Langer have got rid of those clauses for new players, so people like Conor Gallagher won't have them. So in a perverse way, he has, but I think it's more just from being. He's essentially provided us with such a financial cushion that we're so secure, and in a way that's even more frustrating because we could have used that cushion to, rather than saying, "Well, it's okay in the relegation, we'll be fine." We could have used that cushion to say, "Well, let's go for it and try and win the Premier League then instead." But we obviously use it in the disaster situation rather than the opposite of that, which is the frustration when it comes to Daniel Levy. We could have used this cushion rather than saying, "Well, actually, if we get relegated, we'll be fine." We could have done, well, let's just go and spend 400 million in one summer and try and win the Premier League. But of course, we see the opposite end of it, and that's where that's why I don't tend to credit him for that. It's just the way that it turned out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right not to give him credit. I think there was a lot of things he did wrong. There was a few things he did right, but there was a hell of a lot he did wrong. And look, and also the TV money, which we are going to sort of go on to a little bit now. How the money is split, it's equal share. Half the domestic and international broadcast revenue is split equally among all 20 clubs, ensuring that every club gets a substantial base income. Number 2, the facility fees, TV appearances, a quarter of domestic broadcast earnings is tied to how often a club's match appears on UK television. More TV games means more money. And then the final bit, merit payments, the final quarter, it's distributed based on league ranks. Champions earn the highest share. Each lower position earns 1 share less, right down to 20th place. So if you look at Tottenham Hotspur last year, Connor, if you look, I think our total in the Premier League was £127.8 million. And including the 41 million we won for winning the Europa League. So you add that all together, you get this round about 565.3 million. Do you want to explain to people about what this means to Tottenham, and how it's how do they come to that figure?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I mean, look, 565 million in a year that we finished 17th is pretty impressive, right? I think that it was Tottenham's record revenue.
Yeah.
Put us ninth in world football. Higher than Chelsea. So it's quite clear that we've built through having the stadium and the diversified revenue streams, a money-making machine in terms of revenue for sure. But that being said, I think overall the results in terms of how that then translated through to EBITDA, which is basically the profit that you generate from your operations, was lower. And the reason really for that is because where we finished 17th, you've sort of missed out on, call it 35 million plus in terms of prize money compared to what you would have got if we'd finished, say, 5th again. I think it was 37 million pounds, sorry, lower than the previous season when we finished 5th, right? So about 37 million quid you've missed out on. And you've then replaced that with increased commercial revenue as a result of running the events. So, NFL, boxing, concerts, etc. But the problem with running those events is they also come with fairly significant operational costs.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our fans think, okay, we run Beyonce, it's going to be, £5 million an event, that's £5 million profit. But actually, they're not that profitable. And they certainly aren't as profitable as just finishing 5th rather than 17th, whereby you get an extra 37 million quid with no cost at all. And so, I've said this a lot, right, in terms of a lot of my criticism of ENIC, and it's been around the fact that they've never really been willing to speculate to accumulate in the right way. Particularly that seen, as Bill was talking about earlier, in terms of Levy's risk aversion and not wanting to spend on wages. Now, obviously, transfer spend has gone up, but still, we're very, very tight when it comes to wages. And that lack of wanting to speculate to accumulate not only makes us suffer as fans, because obviously we watch worse football and we're fighting relegation, but also for them as owners, actually, it'd be very, very easy to get these revenue numbers much, much higher than this, right?
Yeah.
If we were actually a team that was more successful on the pitch. And so that's really, we've almost capped out now, I would say, in terms of the revenue that we can hit without becoming more successful on the pitch. And the benefit of obviously becoming more successful on the pitch is Champions League football, whereby you're going to get, an extra 70 million quid in revenue just as a result of being in the Champions League compared to not. Obviously, the finishing higher in the league, you get more money, as we just spoke about. And then also the sponsors, as we were mentioning earlier, you can get more from sponsors as a result of being a more successful team. And that's what you're seeing with Arsenal right now. So Arsenal, for large parts of the last sort of 6 years or so were trailing behind us on revenue. They're now, close to sort of 700 million pounds of revenue because they've become more successful on the pitch. So the two things should go hand in hand, really. And unfortunately, our owners haven't really made that connection.
No, they haven't. And Billy, if you look at the match receipts, 126.5 million. You're away for prize money, of course, we've got 34.7 million, which works out to be 41 million euro. But the commercial bit at the bottom, 277.1 million. Surely, I mean, we had a really poor summer transfer window. We didn't buy anyone in January. There was the big thing. We sold Brennan Johnson to buy Conor Gallagher. We do have money to spend, but why won't they spend it? If you see numbers like this, surely we could have splashed out a little bit in January or even in the summer.
Yeah, and I think that the January one in particular, because I know obviously, I think the net spend has come up quite a lot of the spend, but obviously it's what we spend it on that's been a real problem lately. But January in particular, we had essentially a net spend of about barely anything, because we sold Johnson for essentially what we paid for Gallagher, and then we just bought Sousa, the left back. So I mean, for me, I think that January transfer window, particularly the Langer quotes that came after it, where he said, we didn't want to panic buy, and The injured players will be returning soon. Obviously, a couple of months later, we've learned that actually none of those injured players are actually really going to return. You know, Maddison's not going to be back. Kulusevski, God knows what's happened to him. Kudus has got injured even more. So it's all absolute nonsense. And I think our net spend in transfer is actually pretty high. I think it's one of the, and I said to you the other day, didn't I, Dermot?
Yeah.
You know, Langer has spent 700 million at this club, but it's the quality that we spend on that is really, really worrying. And, you know, it's the players that we target. I think we'd rather have like 3 40 million pound players than 120 million pound player, you know? And I think if you really want to get to the next level, if you really want to compete with the likes of Man City and Arsenal, you need to buy a Declan Rice one summer. You need to buy a Van Dijk, you know? And that's where we've always struggled. And you know, we target players with high resale value, low wages, you know, and then so that we know that if we, you know, like Brennan Johnson, so we know that if we do want to sell him, we can sell him for similar. You know, we can recoup most of our transfer fee. When really you can't. You have to just at one point you have to take a big risk, and you have, you know, we're the only top big six club without £100 million player. So. You know, we're nowhere near it. In fact, I think Solanke's our top with 60 million, isn't he? So, you know, we're miles off the others in terms of spending, you know, on quality players. So that's the big worry for me. And the fact that we got escaped that January transfer window, and you know, I've said it loads of times recently, but even Thomas Frank came out on the last Friday and said, you know, we're weaker now than we started in January. We lost 8 players. It's just one of the biggest failings that I can remember. That January transfer window is just absolutely absurd. And back then, in that January transfer window, we were 13 points clear of West Ham. 13 points clear. Since then, we've got 3 points and they've got 18. So it's crazy the amount of drop. You know, that it's almost directly responsible for where we are now.
It is, and I mean, kind of with the stadium debt as well. I think the overall debt went up to over 900 and something million. I think if I think that was the net, wasn't it? The net debt shut up for
I think net debt's about 830 million excluding transfer debt. So then if you add the transfer debt on, which is about 300 million, you know, you're slightly less, 200 odd million, you're over £1 billion, including you know, in terms of stadium debt plus transfer debt.
So with the stadium debt, how is that the one good thing he did with the stadium debt? Having that, like, I'm not trying to praise Levy. Please don't get me wrong. For Billy chasing me out with the round island with a massive man. Come here, you fucker. Come here. You're not praising him. But with him structuring that debt, a bit like how you structure a mortgage over so many years, was that the smartest thing he done? Because if we were to get relegated and he didn't do that, would we be in a worse state financially if we didn't structure the stadium debt better?
Yeah, we definitely would be in a worse position. I'll use his own quote, which is that they got lucky, rather than give him credit for it. Because I'll use his own words against him. I think they were very fortunate in terms of timing, to be honest. I think, you know, it was at a time when interest rates were super, super low. Obviously it was well structured and it is helpful. I mean, that's the other thing that you sometimes see on Twitter, that people sort of speculate that will go down, and because of the stadium debt we'll have huge problems. But actually, I don't see that as a big issue for us, again, provided that we get promoted fairly quickly, because the stadium debt costs about £30 million a year to service in terms of interest, which should still be able, you know, you should still be able to do even with championship revenues. And we're not paying off the debt right now anyway. So all we're doing is servicing it anyway, which by the way, I agree with. I think that's a sensible thing to do, because the interest rate is so low, it doesn't make sense to pay that debt off at this stage. Because it's less than the cost of inflation. So it makes sense to just service that and then look to refinance in due course.
Are we just paying off the interest? Sorry. Are we just paying off the interest on it then? So
we are.
It's like a mortgage. You're just paying off the interest off of the mortgage. Okay, I got you now. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you were chatting a second ago about just to give some like sense of how big that commercial revenue is compared to the Championship. So our commercial revenue there of 277 million would be, if you exclude Leeds from last season, would be the size of all 23 Championship clubs combined, and a bit more. So, you know, that gives you a sense of how, and Billy and I have chatted quite a lot about this on our channel, you know, around the fact that, you know, and as I was saying earlier, about it being unprecedented, it would. We are so much of a behemoth compared to the rest of the Championship. It's really hard to compare, which is one of the reasons, to be honest, I think, I say this almost laughing at myself, if you can make a couple of sensible football decisions, if you get relegated, I do think we would, because of that vast difference, I do think we would come back up straight away. But I know a lot of our fans worry that we're going to get stuck down there for years. But I just think the difference is so vast that basically every single player you want to attract at the Championship level, you're going to get, even without trying.
I mean, there is the estimated revenue streams in the Championship. Match receipts, 100 million, 80 million for TV and media, and 180 million commercial. Billy, look, there is a massive drop-off, but as Connor says, we with the commercial, we would dwarf all 20-odd teams in the Championship. I agree with Connor. I think it would be a one-season wonder. We'd be back up in the season. So. With the money that we're saving, do you think Tottenham might be able to say some of the players, do you know what, stick with us for a year? We'll be back in the Championship, back in the Premier League.
That would definitely be the sales pitch. I just don't trust Vinay and Langer to be able to convince them. If they were, De Zerbi would be able to do that, though. I imagine for a lot of these players, if they think, right, I know we're in the shit and we've gone down, but if you stay with me for another year, we'll be back in the Premier League. We'll have a year of playing our system and we'll perfect it, and then in the Premier League we'll take it by storm next year. But you know, I would much rather trust De Zerbi to put that message across to Lang and Vinay for sure. But I think if they get a really strong director of football in as well, they might be able to say to a few of like, I mean, if we go down, we're going to have to target like, you know, your sort of Hayden Hackneys and the young players that are already in the Championship and say, look, if you stick with us for a year, you'll be in the Premier League next year, and then hopefully we'll be back, because there's no chance we can go and sign players from other Premier League teams or, you know, teams across Europe anymore if we go down. But we'd have to target a bit like we did back in the day, you know, when we used to buy the young players in the Championship. And I mean, if you look at those numbers there, for example, I think the average revenue of the Championships is 30 to 40 million. So we're almost 10 times. I mean, it's absolutely insane how much of a disparity there would be. And my thing about it as well is we can't possibly sell every single player. Like we have to keep some of them. Like you can't have a transfer window where you sell like 15 players. So some of them would stay. We'd hopefully get their academy players in, and we'd be able to sign a few young English players. And actually, I know it's perverse saying this, but you know, this is how much I'm sort of coming around. I'm not coming around to the idea. You know, I definitely do not want to be relegated. Don't get me wrong, but in some ways, it might be a massive reset that the club needs in a lot of ways, and it would be a chance to get rid of absolutely all of the dead wood and anyone that's sort of not be there. And then suddenly, you might have a really, and it's a bit like, I don't know if anyone's been following Southampton this season, but they've basically essentially done the same. They've got a new manager in recently, and they're winning 2-0 again today. They're absolutely unbelievable now. They got rid of all their players. They got rid of the manager. They've got a young team, and now they're sort of and Ipswich is similar as well. You know, sometimes you need the worst possible thing to happen before you can reset. And my worry is, even if we stayed up, I think we might repeat again next year, just because I don't trust these guys. They probably think they can get away with it again. So maybe going down and a massive reset is what we need in some perverse ways.
I probably have to agree with you. I mean, look, Connor, I sort of agree with what Billy says. Maybe a reset is what we needed, but from a fan being 40 to next year being 45 years following Tottenham, I think going down to the Championship, I just got this in the back of my head. It's not an easy league to get out of. But when you look at the numbers and you do look at the other teams who are in the Championship and you look at the players we've got, it should be an easy sort of one season wonder. We did that back in 77, 78. I know we got up by the skin of our teeth getting a point at Southampton, but we still went on. And then we bought Ricky and Ozzy. And then Keith Burkishaw built the 80 side that won 2 FA Cups and the UEFA Cup. Do you think with De Zerbi and giving him the keys to the kingdom, do you think Tottenham have to now? Do you think the ownership, the Lewis family, have to now give him the keys and let all the decisions, footballing wise, go through him? Because you look at Jose Mourinho's comments the other day. Look how many managers we have sacked over the years. Isn't it about time this ownership just let footballing people do footballing things?
You'd hope so, mate. But the problem is we've got 25 years of data to tell us that they're not going to do that, you know. And I don't buy this whole rebrand stuff, you know. I think they are what they are. But the one thing that the one little glimmer of hope you can hold on to is surely they are seeing the risk, the financial risk that is associated with the decisions they're making now in a way that, when Levy was there and we had those years under Pochettino particularly, they got away with it, right? They got away with their model. The job Pochettino did was in spite of the support he was given by the ownership. I mean, we had 5 years of net spend of £13 million a year. We had the lowest wage to revenue ratio then.
Yeah.
Poch just managed to build a team, which was a great team and coached in the right way. And we got fortunate that we found Harry Kane through the academy. You don't find Harry Kanes regularly. There was a couple of signings that really came off, and it was more luck rather than judgment, right? Whereas what I would say is this is the reality of some of those decisions that have been made by the football club. Now we're probably ironically doing worse than where we should be in terms of averages and all of that, because we've still got, the seventh highest. I mean, we all complain about wages, but in terms of quantum, it's the seventh highest wage, bill. So we shouldn't be sitting 18th if you say you should be somewhere in the mean with that. But I think this is the reality of the culture that has been set at the football club, that, this no ambition to win, everyone's sort of happy with just about existing. And obviously terrible recruitment decisions have been made year after year. I think on that point in the Championship, the one thing that worries me is that we would be everyone's cup final.
Yeah.
Which I don't think helps. But that being said, I do think, there will be players that will stay because you can't sell a whole squad.
Yeah.
I think it helps that it's not a World Cup year and that this is the World Cup year. That probably helps with some players that maybe, some of the internationals that you might, that you might be able to keep hold of. And as Bill says, surely you'd then be looking at signing the best of the Championship talent that is available. And actually, some of that Championship talent has worked out really well when it's moved to the Premier League, more so than some European talent. You can list through players: Eze, Elise, Bowen, Maddison. There's lots and lots of examples of players. I'm sure there's examples the other way, but certainly Dougie Freedman, for example, was a bit of a specialist when he was at Palace of picking those gems out of the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, Billy, there's a lot. Look, we do sit in 18th. Simon Jordan said, and I agree with him, we're not an 18th team. The squad is not an 18th team. It's more of a mid-table team. But we do find ourselves in 18th. We do find ourselves 2 points behind West Ham. Leeds winning last night, I think that sort of secured Leeds Premiership survival, if I'm being honest. So I think Leeds are probably out of it. It's between Forest, West Ham and ourselves. But Forest are a winner. We are 3 points ahead of us. And then West Ham are 2 points. We do have Brighton, Wolves, Leeds, Villa, Chelsea and Everton. Just very quickly, do you want to go through where do you think we might pick up points in the last 6 games?
Well, we definitely can't give up. It's not the thing is, on a normal season, on any other season, you'd say if you beat Brighton at home, Wolves away and Leeds, you stay up. I think fine, Tottenham can do that, no problem. It's just this season that seems like such an improbable task, doesn't it? But the fixtures are favourable. There's no two ways about it. We've got favourable fixtures, and actually Leeds, if you look at where the fixtures fall, Leeds might well be safe by the time we play them, which would be massive for us. This weekend there's a bit of a worry for me, I have to say, because Brighton are massively informed. But if you look at the other fixtures as well, it's really worrying. I think Forest have got Burnley and Leeds have got Wolves, so we could be. And West Ham have got Palace away, which is not an easy game by any means. But bear in mind, Palace do play on Thursday. So we could be 5 points adrift this weekend if we don't beat Brighton. For me, we have to beat Brighton. I think if we don't beat Brighton, then I don't think we'll have the confidence to pick up points in any of the other games. I think that's it done. So, it's just, if we look at those fixtures there, I mean, I think if we get 3 wins, we probably do it. It's just, going from 3 wins in 6 from 0 wins in 14 is such a difficult task. But I think it will just take 1 win to get us back in the groove. It might just take 1 win. It might just be a horrible performance against Brighton where we just nick a goal or something like that. Might do it. But if you look at those fixtures there, the thing is we've got 3 home games, which on paper are very winnable. Brighton, Leeds, and Everton. If you'd have said at the beginning of the season, Tottenham need to stay up, they need to win 2 or 3 of those home games, you think, fine, that's no problem. We can beat Brighton, Leeds, and Everton at home.
Yeah,
it's just such a crazy season. And then Wolves away, well, you know, they might literally be relegated by then. Villa away and Chelsea away are 2 really difficult away games, but in the context, there might be a couple of things which help us. In that Villa will be in the they might even be in a Europa League final by then, or Europa League semi-final. Chelsea might be in an FA Cup final by the time we play them, or FA Cup semi just before. So there's lots of little things that might help us, but I just think we need that first win. And I honestly think if it doesn't come against Brighton, then we're done. I think that's it. So I mean, I've said that every game the last 5-6 games now, but I think we have to target the 3 home games there.
Yeah.
And the Wolves game as ones that we can win, because historically we don't win at Villa Park, we don't win at Chelsea. But if we can just get 3 wins from those, you know, 4 games there between Brighton, Wolves, Leeds, and Everton, then we should survive. But I just think it's such a big task to go from 0 wins in 14 to 3 and 6. It just sounds so improbable, doesn't it, at this point?
It does. I mean, Connor. Billy is right. If we do lose against Brighton, I think we are sort of 90% done. Losing to Sunderland took it out of our own hands, didn't it?
Yeah.
So if we had big Sunderland, it was still on our own hands. Taking it.
To be honest, last night was a big one for me. I really thought Leeds would get dragged into it, and then they go and win at Old Trafford. It's just you can't. Yeah. You just can't. I mean, what are the chances of that? I mean, that was just a gimme 3 points. You just imagine for Man United, but that's it. When
you trust Man United to do something, they'll always let you down. Colin, what you doing, man? Get in there and get Man United winning again. I've been saying for a long time, Connor, that it might go down to the last game of the season, and I sort of revised that a little bit. Thought if we're 5 points adrift by the time we play Leeds, I think then we're done. Where do you think the crucial game is for us? If we lose against Brighton, do you think whatever we do in the last 5 games won't be enough? Or are you like me, a little bit delusional, thinking, do you know what? Miracles do happen. We might pull this out of the bag.
Yeah, so I agree with you lads about Leeds. I think Leeds are now out of it, because I think they've got Wolves and Burnley at home in their last 6 games, right? And at Ellen Road, I can't see them getting anything but 6 points from them, so that takes them to 42, right? So I think they are definitely out of it now. And I was like Billy, hoping that they were going to get dragged in. West Ham and Forest are both obviously playing better than us. For me, I think I messaged in one of the chats straight after the Sunderland game saying we need to get 6 points, I think, from the next 2 games to stay up. I'd go one step further, even that I think we need to beat both Brighton and Wolves to stay up, because I think, and I completely agree with what you lads are saying. I think the psychology of losing to Brighton and it then going to potential, because I could see West Ham beating Palace, the way West Ham are playing at the moment. Palace are safe, they've got an outside chance of Europe, but not really. So they're one of the types of teams you want to be playing. And then if you're 5 points adrift and you've only got 5 games left, the confidence of this team is already absolutely on the floor.
Yeah,
it is. And I think you've just lost 3 games in a row, being Forest, Sunderland, and Brighton at home. 3 games which on paper you look at and you go, those are the types of games you need to be getting points from in a relegation battle, and you've got 0. I think you're gone at that point. But it's ironically, it's funny, I looked at the fixtures before the season started, right? And this was when we were all in our classic, delusional, excited for a new season. And I looked at the last 6 games at that time. I remember looking at it and going, do you know what, that's quite a nice running if we're competing for Europe. Because I just thought, we've got 4 games there that are very winnable. Obviously, that's not the way the season's played out somewhat, and now we can't buy a win. So, like Everton at home, for example, last game of the season's a nice last game of the season to have. I think you generally be thinking, well, Everton won't have much to play for. But again, they've got an outside chance of Europe as well, so they might be going, for that at that point. And we've had a decent record against Everton at home as well over the years. So I thought, well, that's quite nice. But I think we need to definitely beat Brighton. I think even a draw would not be good enough.
No, I agree. Look, I think if as Billy says, if we don't beat Brighton and if we don't get anything against Wolves, I think we're done. I do. And as you said, West Ham is playing Palace. I am doing a hate along on Monday. Sorry, Tony. I will be doing one to see. I will be supporting Crystal Palace. Whoever thought the day we will be supporting other teams. Now, I know we're tight for time, guys. We do have lots more. So what I'll do, I might move this into another stream, Connor. Might do a part two into this. Because
I'm really happy to do a part two. Yeah, love to.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions here. One for you from Anthony Lyons. It says, Connor, not the Premier League, but how badly did relegation affect Juventus? And I've got a question for you as well, Billy, from Ryan.
Yeah, I think I don't specifically know about Juventus's situation, but obviously that was enforced on them because no one can do a Tottenham and actually be in the financial situation we are in and find ourselves actually just getting into relegation naturally. But they did manage to bounce back pretty quickly. Again, it would have been because of the sheer size of a Juventus versus the types of clubs in the Serie B is just so vast that you do bounce back quickly. I mean, I know people will bring up examples, as I say, and I'm sure people have done it in the chat around, what happened to Leeds and what happened to some of the other clubs that have gone down, Leicester, for example. But
Sunderland went back-to-back relegations, didn't they? As well,
yeah, but the fundamentals of Tottenham, where we are, it is just very different, actually, in terms of the sheer size. I mean, these clubs would have gone down with revenues that were, not even pale into insignificance compared to ours. So,
yeah. Well, I hope that answers your question, Anthony. And one from you, from Ryan. Billy, he says, question, when are we getting protests back, or we're just going to wait till we go down?
No, we're definitely looking to do a few things in the home games that are left, and we definitely want to target the Everton game in particular. Obviously, that'll either be. Yeah. I mean, it might be tricky if it's a must-win game to stay up or something like that. But we're definitely not. We're definitely planning something. So we've got a few things in the pipe. We've got a few different strategies in the pipeline as well, because we've spoken. I mean, myself and Connor spoke about it a lot, and me and you, Dermot, spoke a lot about how much appetite there is for people to actually join protests at the moment. So we've got a few other strategies in the pipeline as well, but we're definitely not letting up. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then Ryan, if you want to hear, it will be here because Billy is joining part of this channel now as well. So
we've got a few tricks up our sleeve, put it that way, that we're going to try and do.
That's it. Well, we're here to help as much as we can. I mean, I walk off 75 on every 75th minute, walk off for about 10 seconds. It's hard when you're doing the watch along, but I do it. I will tell you a very quick story. I was doing the Forest game and I walked off in the 75th minute, needing a wee. So I thought, quickly, I'm doing my protest. I'll go for a wee. Now, I left my head this in because I was listening to the game as well, so I can keep up with the game. So when I come back on, I'm not behind. Next thing I hear this in my ear roll, Dermo, come back. The keeler had come onto the stream and he's talking to me, when I'm having a piss. And I'm going, it's the weirdest, that's just freaky. No, not again. It was so weird. I'm in Fekia. He was there going, Dermo, come back. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you speaking? But yeah,
you did see at the weekend, for example, on that question, and that Liverpool did a protest where they still attended the match and everything, and they just didn't take the flags in. They said no pound in the ground. So there's definitely things that we can look to do before the end of the season.
Yeah, I said it, and I don't like saying it. I really don't like saying it, but our fans can be quite embarrassing sometimes. You watch other clubs that get behind these protests, and you look at our fan base, and I hate criticising the fans. I really do. It's my red line. I don't go over that. But
we might try and reach out to those other guys as well, like the Liverpool and the Man United, to see if they got because I mean, they are protesting against ticket prices, which obviously ours didn't raise because they can't, because there's no way that they can. But
they might lower
it's always. Yeah, they might bloody have to, wouldn't they? But it's in West Ham, another Hammers Football TV there in the chat. West Ham are another club that are protesting at the moment, so it's happening all over the country. A lot of fans are pissed off of the way that we're being treated at the moment. It's not unique to Tottenham, so we can always learn from talking to other clubs and stuff.
Well, I will get into. I'll get you and Colin talking because I think he knows a few people within the protest group, so I'll get you two together and we'll definitely do something. But Connor, you run a fantastic channel, The Whistle Blows. I know you do also with Billy as well. So there is the link. Do you want to give it a big plug? Because you're on in a few minutes. Sorry for rambling on. And
No. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we're live actually in 5 minutes with our next show. So please come over if you're free. But yeah, thank you so much for having us on. Really appreciate it, and definitely keen to do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely. Billy, are you around this week? We'll get you on again.
Yeah, I'm around,
Are
mate.
you
I'm around. I'm always
What
around,
day is
yeah.
it today? Are you around Thursday? Me
I'm
and Billy
around
will be
Thursday,
back.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
me and
just,
Billy.
praying that we get that bloody win at some point, mate.
Yeah.
I don't think I've won since I've spoken to you. Since I've been speaking
Yeah.
to you. I don't blame
Yeah,
you, though.
mate.
I'm not blaming you.
No, maybe I'm the bad luck. Yeah, maybe I need to be bumped off somewhere. I can see you and Connor a few of them. Right, let's get a hitman on Dermo. You have to find me first. On Thursday, it is return of the North London podcast. Well, us 2 Tottenham fans talk to 2 Arsenal fans who are just as depressed as we are. So North London is a depressed place to be at the moment.
Hopefully they'll lose tomorrow as well. That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Hopefully. But do get over to Connor's and channel there. Get over there now. If you do go and do THFC raid, so guys from here, big up to Hammers. Must be North London thing, Dermot. Arsenal fans trying to do a protest. One YouTuber went, couldn't find anyone apart from them all being in the club shop. Oh Lord! On that bombshell, and big up. Look, big up to Brenny Ray. Not long finished on takeaway. Brenny, be around Thursday 8:00 pod. North London podcast. It's back to you and Nick. Guys, thank you for watching. Really enjoyed it. Get over to Connor's channel now. Him and Billy are on in a couple of minutes. Come on, you Spurs. We still believe we're going to stay up. And whatever you do, come on, you Spurs.